The search response to the students, posted 300 East Alameda Avenue. The world station of the county of
You're listening to Be the Hero podcast, brought to you by Heroes Behind the Line, where we break the stigma of silence around PTSD and mental health. Are you a first responder in need or just want to talk? Send us a message on Facebook, Heroes Behind the Line, or Be the Hero podcast, and welcome to the show.
All right, good afternoon, Heroes Behind the Lineville. This is your director, Travis Browning, with Heroes Behind the Line and the Be the Hero podcast. And we're still coming to you from the Northwest Arkansas Fire and EMS Conference up here in Rogers at the beautiful Embassy Suites. And we have a new guest on our show. Her name is Miss Staci Daniels. Miss Staci, how are you today?
Doing good.
That's great. We had a little problem. We had to start our podcast over again. Y'all didn't see it, but it was my fault, of course, because I always mess things up. But anyways, so Miss Staci is a paramedic.
Yep.
And she's been doing it for what, 25 years?
25 years.
That's a long time. So the guest we had on the last podcast, was a paramedic, been doing it about the same time. And I said, man, you don't see as many people doing it for as long as
No.
what,
No.
And what do you do when we just don't have anybody?
Well, I think that's why I still enjoy doing it,
Right.
because I want to be able to mold those new people coming in.
Yeah.
Things change, and I just want to be that person to help them carry the torch.
Yeah,
basically.
absolutely. And we need people like that. We need trainers and instructors and people to say, hey, this is a fun job. Because it really is. So 25 years as a paramedic, you've done some pediatric stuff in the past. You've been a supervisor on trucks. And so, but right now you're back out ground pounding on the streets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Taking calls.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we need people to do that because I don't like to do it. So
It's not for everybody. It's
no. Yeah. So I've been a EMT for a long time now. And like I've said on every podcast with everybody here is I don't want to be a paramedic, not because I wouldn't be a good paramedic, but because I cannot let some young 18-year-old kid drive an ambulance at like 90 miles an hour and I'm in the back just hanging on for dear life. So it's like, people are afraid of dying by drowning or fire. I am afraid of dying in the back of an ambulance driven by an 18-year-old listening to like Taylor Swift or something.
Yeah, totally understand.
Yeah. So tell us, how, we always ask people that's been doing it for a while, like, how did you make it 25 years? Like why, how did you get started? Why did you decide to stay with it and all that? Tell us that story.
Well, I kind of got started late in life.
Mm-hmm.
I knew when I was a young child that I wanted to be a paramedic.
Right.
I'm going to show my age here just for a little bit, but I used to watch Emergency.
Oh,
So
yeah. It's a great show.
I didn't want to be the nurse.
Yeah.
I wanted to be Johnny and Roy,
Right.
caps and all that great stuff.
Right.
But fast forward, I got married, had kids, so that
Mm-hmm.
kind of put it. So I didn't actually get into this job till I was 30.
Right.
And so I think that's part of it too. It was something that I always wanted to do. So then once I got into it, why would I want to do anything else?
Sure.
It was kind of like my dream job.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah. So Emergency, you can still watch, believe it or not. It's still streaming online. So
yeah.
if you're like a new EMT or medic, get
Go
online
watch it.
and watch it. Now, granted, you got to think television was not nearly as
Right.
computer generated and artificial.
Right.
So it's a little cheesy at times, but at the time that was like top notch.
Oh yeah, the equipment that
Yes.
they were using
That's
is
legitimate.
exactly legit.
Yes.
So
that is what they had to work with, and they made the best of it.
So if you think your packs are heavy now,
yeah, nothing.
nothing
No.
compared to that.
And they used to ride on the back of fire trucks,
Yeah.
and they didn't have closed cabs. That's like a legitimate thing. It's not. That is legitimately how the firemen and EMS used to do it.
Yeah.
And so I joke. My dad used to be an EMT. He started out years ago, back before EMTs was like even a thing. He was driving for the funeral homes, and the funeral homes would actually drive around the hot. Like if you were getting close to being, they would just drive circles for a minute.
Legit.
Because you got more money if you went to the funeral home than you did the hospital. So that was like EMS has came a long way, even here in Arkansas. We're still behind the times, I think. It's we're getting there. We're getting there. But we EMS as a whole we're always kind of a step behind trying to come up with the newest technology, the newest equipment, getting all that cool stuff that we get to use now. So
Yep.
yeah. So 25 years, obviously, you know the stresses of this job.
Yep.
We talk about that a lot. And we talk about that not everything gets to be suicidal in the job, but how many people do we have that just leave the job because they're tired of running the stressful
Yep.
calls, going all night long, dealing with grandma
Mhm.
that's fallen 400 times in the middle of the night when you've
Yeah.
had zero sleep.
Yeah.
So do you have any, help for these younger people since you've made it so far, is like how to kind of combat some of that?
Yeah, actually. So I teach first responders.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my first things that I always tell them is you have to find something outside of this job
Right.
that's going to keep you sane.
Right.
That's your go-to. And we're not talking drugs, alcohol, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Good
Right.
stuff.
Sure.
The good stuff. And, and in the last few years, we're seeing more and more of it around with the
Mhm.
resilience training and
Yes.
things like that.
Yeah.
But for me, it was, and I'm in a rural area. So believe it or not, for most people, it's fishing, hunting.
Right. Yep.
You go out, sit in your blind, even if you don't catch a deer, turkey, whatever, just being out in nature and sitting in your blind. And
Right.
for the longest time, I didn't take that advice myself.
Right.
And then one day I just did, and hiking became my thing.
Yeah.
Just getting outdoors, and after a particularly bad shift, just go out to nature.
Yeah. You got any good like hiking spots that
I love down here in Northwest Arkansas. Like,
I know they do a lot of biking up here
Mhm,
too. It's like
mhm.
bicycles
Yeah.
everywhere. So.
Down in Devil's Den
Uh-huh.
and Hawkers, is it Craig's Point, Hawkers?
Craig-
I-
something.
something like that. It's
Is that the
two
one that
different-
everybody goes and takes pictures at?
Yeah, 'cause it's like a little-
Yeah.
There's a cool waterfall if you can
Yep.
find it on that one too.
I got you. I think that might be the one that we tried to do. Me and my wife tried to do
Uh-huh.
that one time and made it about halfway down, and she twisted her ankle
Oh,
real
no.
bad, and we're like, "Oh,
Oh,
no!"
no.
Like call in the helicopter. I said, "Man, you're going to make it." We
Well, that survival class I just
Yeah.
took would have been a good one for you guys.
right, yeah. Mind over matter though. We finally got back up and made it back up the hill, and
That's a tough one because it's down.
It's tough. Yeah.
Over it and try to get back.
No, and so that was the issue, is like the cell phone service isn't good up there. And so we were trying to find like an easy one.
Yeah.
And we thought that was it. And it ended up being like the most hard, the hardest one you can possibly do is it's like a level 6 climber, and we're not there.
You're like get out the ropes.
No, yeah, that's not me. But it was fun, and we overcame like we do everything, so
Absolutely.
yeah.
And
So
and the other thing too is just to not get stagnant and
Yeah.
have that burnout is just find other things,
Right.
I have a second job that has nothing to do with EMS.
Yeah.
Sometimes that helps too.
yeah. So what, do you just, are you like the Walmart door greeter on the side, or?
Actually, it's kind of a funny story.
Yeah.
I started working public works
Yeah.
in the city that I live
Oh,
in.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I ended up leaving it just recently because I'm on to some
Right.
other.
Sure.
But yeah.
Yeah, I've got plenty of them. That's what everybody always talks about, is I have too many adventures.
Yeah.
So, but that's how I keep myself busy. We talked about that before, is, I stay busy by, doing the nonprofit stuff, doing the podcast. I've got my golden retrievers over there wagging her tail right now, wanting to come play with us, and she just loves everybody. So there's a lot that keeps us busy. And that's kind of the thing. And, you talked about not being stagnant and getting that burnout, and that's the biggest thing, is like, use your vacation.
Yeah.
That's what it's there for.
Yeah.
Those paid time off.
Mhm.
Sometimes I have to tell my boss, look, I'm taking off. Well, no, that's not how this works. Like, I'm telling you now,
It's tough.
I'm not going to be here on this day. And
Yeah.
so, plan for that.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and that's what I try to get people to do. Cause I know when I was younger, and started in the fire service and EMS and in policing, I was like, I always wanted to be at work. I wanted to be the hero.
Oh,
I wanted to be the guy. And it's so much fun. But at the same token, I didn't realize how much it was draining me.
Yeah.
And then you
realize.
just wake up one day and you've done it so much for so long, you just quit because you're so burnt out.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying, take those days off. If you're sick, and now I work with some sick people apparently, because they're always gone. But if you're honestly, legitimately sick, take those sick days.
Yeah.
That's what they're there for. I'm not saying abuse the system, but if you need a mental health day, take one. And if you need somebody to just do it. And so use those vacation and sick time, and that's a big thing.
That is a big
Yeah.
thing. Very
And
much.
find companies that want to do that with you as well, that want to help out. And there's a lot of good companies here.
Yeah.
And it's getting better and better. And
I was going to say, I think more and more
Yeah.
of them are getting on board with
Yeah.
a mental health days.
Right, yeah.
I just need a day.
Yeah.
I don't feel 100%
right.
coming to work today.
And I think a lot of that comes with, you've got to be honest with your bosses too.
Yes.
You can't call in all the time and say this, make up something. Like if you're, and I'm not saying, I know that we as first responders always want to be the hero.
Right.
And I get that. And you don't want to call your boss and say, hey, look, I'm having a problem and I don't want to come to work today because you got to go on that. But start having some of those lines of communications with your
Yes.
people, and because a lot of times they know something's not right.
Mhm.
They know that, hey, Travis ain't feeling like he's not his normal self,
Right.
and
right.
they probably don't want to prod too much. Now they might ask because they're generally concerned about you, but let them know, hey, look, I just got a lot of stuff going on. I need to take a day, just take a breather, now. But if you are having worse than just needing a breather, let somebody know about
yeah,
that too.
that too. Yeah.
Call
exactly.
us, call your
Mhm.
peer support teams, call whoever you've got set up, your best friend, who I don't,
Mhm.
whatever. Talk about it. Don't hold it in.
Yeah.
We don't have to,
No.
and because we talk about everything else at work,
Right. Why not that?
yeah. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but
Mhm.
when we're on the bad calls, we're like, hey, what are we doing for lunch after this?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so we try to do our best. We have gallows humor, and that's our way of dealing with stuff, but don't get stuck in not being able to talk.
Oh right.
Don't get stuck in not saying something. And just like on every podcast we talk about, don't get stuck in not being able to say, are you okay?
Right. Absolutely. I mean, I think where I work, we have some really good crews that
Right.
really look out for each other.
Mhm.
It's like if I'm off duty and I hear about a bad call,
Right.
pull out my phone.
Yeah.
And I don't ever say, are you okay? I'm
Right.
just like, hey,
Yeah.
I heard you had a bad call.
Right.
I'm here.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. And so that's kind of, we talk about, I got to selflessly plug our Heroes Brew
Do
Coffee,
it.
you know what I'm
Do
saying?
it.
But we started that, and we talk about this all the time. We started that to be a conversation starter.
Mm-hmm.
And whether
Yeah.
it's our coffee or your coffee or whoever's or whatever it is, find that something that we can all, hey, I know we've been having a lot going on, so I'm just going to turn this coffee pot on and just stand by. And you don't even have to say anything. Just we go in. So like when Heroes goes in to do like a debriefing or defusing or a critical, incident or something like that. That's what we do. We go in, we have a coffee, we bring some coffee, we turn the pot on, and we just stand there.
Yeah.
And people will come up and grab a cup, and
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden they're sitting there, and then they say, hey, X, Y, and Z. And then we're like, hey, here we go.
Here we go.
And so we let and it's not priding, or it's not, trying to poke somebody to get them to say something. It's just like, hey, we're here if you want to talk about it. But if you don't, we'll just sit here and stare at each other and drink good coffee.
And that is the best way with folks like us.
Mhm.
Honestly, it's
Yeah.
we have a round table that
Yes.
we sit around and,
Right.
and then it's like I feel like our world problems get solved around the round table with a
Right.
cup of coffee.
Right.
Our problems maybe in our
Exactly.
little world, but
Right.
yeah, there's something very therapeutic about just sitting around and just talking. And you're right, as the conversation flows, things start to come out,
Right.
and that's the best way.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, there's a guy in Little Rock, Ron Spivey. What's up, Cap? So he's a fireman in the Central Arkansas area, and they started an organization called the Kitchen Table Foundation.
Okay.
And literally, it's just that they just go somewhere and eat and
Really?
just have.
That's awesome.
Like, because they're all firemen anyways, and they eat meals. And so
Right.
it's, if you got to start something like that, do something like that, whatever it takes.
Mhm.
And their group, that's all they do. They just say, hey, we're meeting up at, this restaurant at this
Right.
time. We'll be here. And they just hang out.
Yeah.
And then they all get to talking and share more stories, and that's a peer support.
Absolutely.
That's literally free group peer support.
Without being something
Without it being
formal.
peer support.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so you can do whatever it takes. That's our biggest thing. So 25 years, obviously, it's a long time.
It is
Very long time. But so something we always talk about on the podcast too is we always ask our guests is if you could go back and tell your younger paramedic himself, whether it's something about the job, something about life itself, or anything. Do you have anything that you would go back and say, hey, I would do it this way to make it better, or leave it this way because it was great, anything like that you can think of offhand? I know it's like a
outside of the job, there's nothing I would probably change, but I
Right.
probably would tell my younger self to give myself a little bit more grace.
Yeah.
And a little more compassion to myself.
Don't be
'Cause,
as hard on yourself.
Don't be as hard on myself. Because we're really good
Right.
at giving that to the people that we're caring for. We suck at it.
Doing it for
Doing
ourselves. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's something I would go
Right.
back and definitely tell my younger self. Like, I've had a physician tell me before, we call it practicing medicine for a reason. We don't get it right 100% of the time. And
That's right.
and if you have that moment where you just didn't get something right, don't beat yourself up over it.
Right.
Just learn from it and move on. So.
Right. Absolutely. That's actually a probably good. I need to use that a little
Yeah.
bit more in my life. 'Cause I'm pretty hard on myself too. And I think it's human nature.
It's human nature.
It's human nature. We always want to be perfectionists and do really good things and do
Absolutely.
for everybody. And sometimes we feel like we fall short when we don't.
Yeah.
My wife tells me that all the time when I smoke barbecue, because like to her, she's like, oh, it's so good. I'm like, no, you don't have to lie.
No. It's
Yeah, I overcooked it. I already know it didn't get to. I got to 168 instead of 165.
Right, exactly.
It's just not, and so, but but you can take that, and I use that in my entire life. It's because not just barbecuing, but anything.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Work. Being a parent. All that. I just like, man, I'm not doing it right. But I got a 2-year-old that won first place
Yeah.
last
Oh,
night
man.
in the
She
karaoke
rocked it.
contest.
She totally
Thanks,
rocked it. Yeah.
God, we sang Moana.
Moana was awesome. That was the pinnacle. I think
Yeah,
Moana was great.
yeah. So we sang a few other songs too, but
It was a Disney.
well, nobody else was wanting to sing, and so I was like, if y'all don't sing, I'm just going to keep coming up here and singing Disney jingles, and we did.
It worked. It worked.
And finally, it was.
And she
a lot of
won
fun.
first.
She did. Yeah, she got a cool little talent, glasses and a hat. It's awesome. Yeah. So, but in the karaoke thing, just talking about that, another thing, nobody's here. American Idol's not here.
Yeah, they're not.
There's nobody signing contracts here. We just did it for fun.
We're just here having fun.
Just did it for fun. So, whatever it is that you can do to have fun at your job, if there's something we can do to help y'all have fun, heroes, I'll come up there and act a fool. I don't care. We like having fun and making people laugh and enjoy the job, because the biggest thing is like we said earlier, it's not always a suicidal issue, but just people leaving this profession. First responders are getting less and less across the board.
Yes.
Of course, the divorce rates are high on us, and family issues and all that, and cholesterol issues, and we're not eating everything right, and
energy drinks, are they good or are they bad?
Right. Yeah. Lisa can teach you all about that. Our clinical director, Lisa, will have an entire spiel about that. But
that was a great.
Yeah. So as we start wrapping it up here, is there anything else you would give some advice to the new younger generations of EMS and paramedics and things like that?
Don't be afraid to try something new.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get into this job, like you said, you realize you didn't want to be a paramedic, and there's nothing wrong with it. You don't have to. You can be an EMT and never go to paramedic. I know 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
EMTs.
They are EMTs, yeah. I've known
because if that's where you feel good, then feel good. But I also encourage people to, people that know me know that I step out and I find adventures and I take chances. They don't always work, but sometimes it pays off, and that's life. Life is meant to be lived. I'm telling you.
YOLO, right? Yeah, exactly.
YOLO.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to say it, but I tell people all the time,
So cliche, but
you've got to, man. Like, that was a big thing. When I was young, I was pretty poor. My family didn't have much. A lot of us didn't.
Yeah.
Here in Arkansas, and so that was something that I really wanted to do. Is like, man, I want to see the world a little bit. I want my daughter to see the world, and so that's where the nurses and shift workers say, hey, if I work 6 shifts, I can take this vacation or whatever. And so, and that's what we really did, is we started putting money into stuff and saying, hey, we want to take her to Disney. We want to go to this area of Hawaii. We want to, and I was like, man, get out and travel a little bit, live life. Don't let going to work and pulling these 12s or 24s or 48s be your only thing.
Absolutely.
And that's, man, I'm telling you, my life changed dramatically
when you did
once we started doing that. And not saying you even have to go crazy. I mean, here in Arkansas, go to Branson, go to Gatlinburg, drive somewhere, just do a staycation, whatever it is you got to do.
And I think that's great especially when you're in this job and you have families, because I learned real quick as my boys got older that it's not the gifts, but the things that you do together.
Right.
Those are the things.
That's what they're going to remember.
That's what they're
going to they're going to be done playing with that toy in like an hour and whatever. But taking them and seeing stuff for themselves, I think does a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. So, and that's, talking about your families, we forget about them a lot of the times in the job. So,
we do.
There's a lot of stress that I'm sure your children and your husband and whoever experienced during this entire time, your spouses. And so we want to forget about them. So as much as we need it as the first responder, they need it as the family. And so that's why, here we try to do our best to also help spouses and families and support them.
That's good.
Because you got to.
Yeah.
Because if they can help see what's going on and kind of help you figure it out before it gets to a big problem.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's a win-win for us. So
definitely, most definitely.
Yep. So, hey, we're going to wrap it up today, guys. Miss Staci, I appreciate you so much for being here and coming by and supporting. She's been supporting Heroes for quite a while now, and we're very appreciative of that, because without y'all's donations and liking and sharing all of our stuff, we would never get told about any help. So, you guys stay safe out there. This will probably be our last podcast from the NWA 2025, because we're on the last day and we're, coming to an end. So, But if you need us, reach out to us, www.heroesbehindtheline.org. Support at heroesbehindtheline.org is our email. And I think they're watching Razorbacks
Is it?
something over
They
there.
are.
They're getting really excited. But guys, hey, y'all be safe out there, and always remember to be the hero.
I would like to thank our guests for being with us today. A special shout out to all the first responders who rise to the challenges of the job every day. You are our heroes. Please like, follow, and subscribe to our Facebook pages, Hide the Line and Be Here Podcast. If you have an interesting story and would like to be a guest on the show, please reach out to us on Facebook. As always, be the hero and stay safe out there. Thank you.